The strongest yet the weakest and arguably the prettiest character of Diablo 2 is up next. I mean, the barbarian is pretty sexy, but today we are here to take a look at the mini playthrough journey of the cold and light hybrid sorceress.
Evil beware.
But wait, Chinmay, what do you mean by the strongest yet weakest character? Let me explain. You see, the thing is that the sorceress only starts out with 10 vitality points, and this becomes evident very early on when you run out of stamina pretty much as soon as you enter Bloodmoor. Another shortcoming of hers is that she gains very few hit points per a point in vitality. That is, my life pool only went up by 10 points when I dumped 5 points into vitality right there. This means that overall, the sorceress is going to have less life than any other character at a similar level. And this actually ties in really nicely as to why she is so strong. She wrecks stuff. As you can see, I put a point into Charged Bolt. I will be a Nova Sorceress for the normal part of the game, will be switching to Blizzard in Nightmare and going hybrid for Hell. Lightning in the beginning is awesome. Charged Bolt is the only level 1 spell that has good area of effect. That is, you can kill multiple monsters with just one attack. Or, in the case of Blood Raven, kill one particular target who likes to annoy you by running around in circles to avoid your attacks. Charged Bolts spreads out and covers a larger area, giving her less room to escape and allowing you to kill her easily. One thing that I like to do, however, is to use Fire Bolt that I have from my staff against Rakanishu. He is a super unique monster in Stony Field who is always lightning enchanted, and therefore your lightning attacks do less damage to him. More than the damage though, the thing that worries me is that if I use Charged Bolt against him, it is very easy to get confused between whose Charged Bolts are which, get hit by his multiple, and die really quickly. Thankfully, none of that happened. Another super unique monster waiting in the dark wood is Treehead Woodfist. I was really scared of him and did not want to stand and trade with him since he is both extra fast and extra strong. Thankfully, I had found gas potions, which are how I was able to kill him and avoid death. You may have noticed though how for a second when Woodfist hit me, my sorceress was stunned and just stopped moving abruptly. That is actually called a period of hit recovery. It is defined as the period of stun a character faces when a hit from the monster causes her to lose 1/12 or more of her life. As mentioned before, the sorceress has a pretty small life pool and, as it turns out, has the longest time that she takes to recover from a hit stun. So you get hit and lose life, which makes you stunned, which allows monsters to hit you again, so you lose more life and you get more stunned, and this continues until you eventually die. Moral of the story? Don't get hit. Thankfully, to circumvent such situations, there is gear which gives you faster hit recovery. Not like this one, actually. I made a huge oopsie here. I put a Tal and Eth in a 2-socketed armor, which should have resulted in a stealth normally, but I didn't pay attention that my armor was actually a magical armor with a blue base, and rune words only work in an item with a gray base, like this one. Beautiful. Tal and Eth in an armor makes stealth, which not only gives me the aforementioned faster hit recovery, but also some run speed and cast rate, both of which are really nice to have. It also gives poison resistance, useful against Andariel. The spell I used against Andariel in the beginning was Static Field, which takes away 1/4 of the monster's current health, which allows boss fights with the Sorceress to go really quickly. It is interesting to note here that I actually was over level 12 in this battle, but I still did not use Nova against Andariel. That is because Nova consumes a lot of mana, and the light mana potions don't regen the mana quick enough for Nova to be used effectively, so for Act 1 I stick to charged bolts only. At this time, after killing Andariel and making my way to Act 2, I bought a 2-socketed shield from Charcy and put a chipped topaz and a diamond in it to give some light resistance, which will be helpful while fighting beetles in the far oasis. After which I made it to the Arcane Sanctuary. The Sorceress can actually go past this part of the game much quicker than any of the other characters if you have teleport. I was only level 17 at this point, unfortunately, but I still tried to make the most of telekinesis. Using this spell on the way with the teleport pads, the Sorceress can kind of pseudo-teleport, but nothing compares to the real deal. It should be noted that once I did reach Act 2, I respect from Charge Bolt and put all the points into Nova and the rest into Static Field. Putting points into Static Field, again, doesn't increase its damage, but just increases its radius, something which will come really handy in this next fight. Duriel. Duriel with the sword can be a little tricky since you are pretty fragile. I strongly recommend drinking thawing potions before this fight, as they increase your cold resistance by 50 for 30 seconds each and help in tanking Duriel while you fire off static fields in the beginning and then finish off with Nova. Speaking of, I found a +2 to Nova staff in Act 3, and since I wasn't close to reaching any other FCR breakpoints, I decided to use it. That extra bit of damage will come really handy against bosses like Mephisto. He actually does a fair bit of damage to me, since my resistances in normal right now are not very great. I hired a mercenary to absorb some of the elemental punishment that he was dishing out, but even then he was almost able to kill me and kill the no-death normal dream. Fortunately, I had rejuvenation stocked up, which helped me survive, after which I killed him. Even though I was done with Act 3, I decided to stay a while and level up because my Sorceress was pretty underleveled and I did not feel comfy taking on Chaos till she was at least around level 23. For experience, I killed Battlemate Serena and cleared up Trav, since all the monsters have guaranteed to have elites there and they give 500% more experience than regular monsters. Once I did level up, I went to fight Infector. As you can probably tell by looking, I was very scared of this guy. I used a lot of Frost Nova to slow the monsters down, and the additional points in Static Field pay out big time here. They allow me to really weaken Infector and his minions to the point where a couple of Novas is all it takes to take them down. Even though the quote-unquote hardest part was over, there were a lot of other places where I could have died in the Chaos Sanctuary, especially with all those mages around. Luckily, I survived, only to run into Diablo. I'm not even surprised. The game is named after him, for God's sake. Of course he has the ability to just do that, but my Sorceress has the ability to put a ruthless death behind her act like nothing even happened while picking up her own dead body and then sending Diablo straight back to the hell that spawned him. Oh, softcore mode, where would I be without you? For normal Ancients, I hired an Act 2 mercenary. The amount of damage that he does is irrelevant since I only needed him as a meat shield. He acted like a distraction while I used static field to weaken the Ancients and then finish them with Nova. Madoc, even in normal, showed incredible resiliency as he is the Ancient with the most lightning resistance, but eventually even he died. Even though I had powerful moves like Frost Nova and Static Field at my disposal, normal Lister was still a beast. I could have technically killed him, but quite honestly, it was going to take more time than I was willing to spend, and so I just bailed on him. 0 for 4, buddy. Good job. The Lord of Destruction was much easier to kill than the Minion of Destruction, thankfully. Static Field is a great spell against bosses, especially in normal, since you can cast it pretty rapidly and theoretically get a boss down to 1 HP really fast. In later difficulties, however, it is going to be capped at certain percentages of health, but for now, it gets the job done really swimmingly. After completion of normal, I made my way to Nightmare. Only there was one problem. Akara will not sell me greater mana and healing potions. You see, the reason this is happening is because, quite like the game would not let you progress past the Ancients if you're not level 20, if you aren't level 26, Akara doesn't sell you greater potions. This was a bummer, but since I had already made my way to Nightmare, I still decided to clean up the den with the few mana potions I had left over from when I bought them from Mala in Act 5 in normal. This allowed me to have the Nightmare respec and, you guessed it, Blizzard time, boys. I put in 34 strength since that will allow me to wield my Ancient's Pledge and dump the rest of the points into Vitality. For skills, I put 1 in each of the 3 necessary ones: Static Field, Telekinesis, and Teleport. After that, I made my way to the Cold Tree. I got Blizzard, and since I was only level 24, I could only get 1 point in there. After that, I put the rest of the points into Ice Blast, since it is a synergy of Blizzard and is more powerful than the other synergy, Glacial Spike. When I get to level 30, I will also start putting points into Cold Mastery, as it drastically increases the cold damage done by a Sorc as it penetrates through your enemy's cold resistance. Since I was short on experience, I went back to normal to do a couple of Bale runs. I had a lower level of Static Field here, so I had to stand pretty close to Bale to do damage to him, but Blizzard and Ice Blast do dispatch him quicker than Nova did, and they also turned out to be pretty lucky for me, as upon dying, Bale dropped me a unique blade, Spectral Shard. 50 FCR, 52 mana, and 10 all res. Yes please. This weapon will allow me to reach higher breakpoints of FCR really comfortably. One unfortunate thing about this weapon is that I will have to wait for it a little bit since it does require 51 dex. So for starting Nightmare, I was using a wand with 20% FCR, pretty standard stuff that you can easily buy from Ormus. I grinded Nightmare Countess and got a Sol rune to build a lore, +1 to all skills, which increases my damage and also gives me 30 lightning resistance. This really nice amulet with 10 FCR and 32 fire resistance, which I found while farming Serena, Still using stealth due to its excellent bonus to faster cast rate and hit recovery. I am sitting on an awkward 85 FCR at the moment, but if I find 2 more FCR rings, I can go up to the 105 FCR breakpoint. Using Ancient's Pledge since it is cheap and gives 47 all resistances, which increases my survivability against elemental damage at least, following in with the Tread. These boots give me 33 cold resistance. The Demon High Sash I am using is only because of the 4 rows of potions, so that I don't have to return to town as much for mana, and gloves are pretty basic as well with some lightning resistance. But all of those little standard things actually stack up really nice, as I pretty much have max res across the board. This makes me really happy, since the Sorc is such a frail character with only 330 life that having max res really helps out.
Who would have thought that such primitive beings could cause so much trouble?
Against Andariel, however, I still drank a lot of antidote potions since I am a little scared of her. Static field, as I mentioned before in Nightmare, is capped out. You can only do damage to bosses up to 33% of their max health, and after that it stops working. Thankfully, Blizzard and Ice Blast combo does insane amounts of damage on their own, and it is easy and fast enough to take down Andariel without any problems. Upon dying, she dropped a Grand Charm with 27 to life, which is a keeper with the Sorc due to the smaller life pool. Snakes in the Claw Viper Temple can be pretty ruthless. They are naturally resistant to cold, and they do a lot of damage if they catch you mid-teleport with their charge attack. To make navigating through this place a little easier, I hired an Act 2 mercenary with a defensive aura, that is, Holy Freeze. Upon reaching level 2, it was just a matter of teleporting into the amulet area where the snakes can't reach, and then fire off Blizzard against Fangskin, which kills him pretty fast. Even though the Sorceress is a strong independent woman who don't need no teleport staff, she does greatly benefit from a wand with lower resist charges, especially against bosses like Duriel. I like to buy my LR wands from Act 2 Drognen before level 36, as they spawn with a red background, which helps to isolate them from the others and shop for it quickly. About as quickly as I killed Duriel using it. It's pretty sweet. In Nightmare Flare Jungle, one of the monsters dropped a white clasp orb, which I imbued and got a bunch of fire skills. I mean, if I was planning to go Meteorb, which I was for a long time, this would have been absolutely perfect. Unfortunately, that is not the route that I am planning to take anymore, and therefore this thing is useless. But something that is really useful is max res against Mephisto. His most daunting attacks, being Charged Bolt and Frozen Orb, all deal elemental damage, and that is why he was such a threat in normal. In Nightmare, however, even though I had the option to cheese kill him, I was comfortable to dance toe to toe with him and kill him with the aid of Static Field, Blizzard, and Ice Blast. He dropped me Saru's boots, but since I already have insane fire resistance, I decided against using them. The Soulstone quest in Nightmare was indeed a nightmare. Hephasto had Fanaticism Aura, which, if you don't know, increases the damage, attack rating, and attack speed of the monster, pretty much making them extra scary. What was worse was the fact that there were a million of these little grotesques and young maggots, which also got Fanaticism and were able to trap me many a times, causing me to pause buffer and consume rejuvenations. After everything was said and done though, I got the Lum rune from the Hellforge. This is actually a pretty solid find since it allows me to make a smoke with 50 all resistances and potentially get max res in hell as well. Thanks to the immense amount of damage and AoE from Blizzard, Chaos was pretty easy to clear. I did have a couple annoying moments with the Necro Mages when a million of them attacked me at once and left me indefinitely hit stunned, but it was nothing I couldn't get through. Diablo was a similar story. One thing to note is that Diablo's devastating lightning hose attack actually becomes less devastating as the difficulty increases. You see, for whatever reason, if you stand super close to Diablo, his lightning hose cannot reach you in Nightmare or Hell since the animation of the actual spell starts further from Diablo. This allows you to really get intimate with the big red lizard, throw down some static fields, and then finish up with Blizzard. Wow, that rhymed, and was stupid, quite like the Nightmare Ancients fight. It was my fault really, since I forgot to use static field against them. I do not know what I was thinking, but as soon as the Ancients spawned, the first thing I did was cast Lure Resist. Afterwards, I cast Blizzard and started moving around. See, this is the beauty of this spell. You can cast Blizzard and move away from the monsters, and the ones that are chasing you will get damaged by it. This is really useful in places like the Chaos Sanctuary, where there are a bunch of monsters around you, or in this case, when there are 3 freaking crazy wild barbarians trying to kill you because they want to. Talik was extra fast and extra annoying, and to see him die first was refreshing. Korlik followed suit soon, which is strange since not only does Korlik have more cold resistance, but Madoc is the ancient with the least life. Upon further inspection, I got to know that Madoc was spectral and was therefore able to resist elemental damage, and that's why he died last. By the time I reached Nightmare Bale, my Blizzard was maxed and I was putting points into Cold Mastery. This meant that my cold damage was insane. Bale 2 seemed keen to have a cold versus cold showdown, and I did not back down. After weakening him with static, I cast Lure Resist on him and let it rain. Or snow, you get the idea. This amount of damage and this quick killing speed is the reason why sorceresses are preferred for magic finding, which means in the next segment of this playthrough, I am about to have a lot of fun.
If there was magic here, it's long gone now.
As usual for my magic find journey, I killed Bale waves to get experience to get up to around level 70 and killed Bale himself in case he drops me something useful that my sorceress can use, and in the process, these were my highlight finds. First up was a unique defender, Vizier, you know the one, +1 to sorceress skills. This is nice, but equipping this would mean that I would be giving up on my resistances from Ancient's Pledge, and I think I would at least prefer a lidless so that I can get some FCR coupled with the +1 to skills so that I can reach a higher breakpoint. Next up, I found 2 set sharkskin belts at one time. They're both Mavinas and they aren't all that useful since they only offer 20 faster run block. But I wanted to show this since it was kinda cool, because in Diablo 2 it is impossible to get 2 unique items dropped at once, but that does not stand true for set items, as you saw right there. One item which is very useful though is a unique Mage Plate which dropped from Wave 2 of Bale. Quahagen's Wisdom, +1 to skills, 20 FCR and 20 FHR. Basically a mini skin of the Viper Magi. Very interesting armor with super useful stats and a base which is gonna make my Sorceress look amazing, which is always an excellent bonus. And finally was probably the most casual drop of Diablo 2 in my life. My first high rune ever, Vex rune. You can tell that I freaked out and I just escaped to town and then took my hands off the keyboard because I didn't want to do something stupid to this beauty. Oh baby, I am making Heart of the Oak on this character if it's the last thing I do. Time to get busy. One hurdle that you face while making Hodo is to get a 4-socketed weapon with a grey base. I tried running Nightmare Cows for this since the weapons that drop have a pretty high eye level here, and so by finding a white flail here and then using the socketing recipe, I could have gotten a pretty good chance at a 4-socketed one. Unfortunately, mine only got 3. Frustrated, I put my game on Players 8 mode and ran Nightmare Pits. At run number 2 here, the whole package itself dropped, which was really nice and meant that I could finally fire up Hell to farm runes. But the Countess in Hell is always cold and fire immune. Therefore, I needed to respec, and the monsters in the den were cold immune too. For this, I used a mercenary with a bone hue on him, and he did a respectable job to kill corpse fire and the other zombies and yetis. Then I respecced to hybrid and hit up the Countess. That took a long time, but finally, when all was said and done, here she is, ready to take on Hell with this equipment that I am about to show you right now. For my headgear, I am wearing this rare coronet that I gambled from Anya with +2 to lightning skills and some life. I also have the best jewel I have ever found in there, 14 all resistances and 13 to life, so it is basically an rune, just better. Good stuff. My amulet is +1 to Sorceress skills, which increases my damage in both the cold and lightning trees. My shield is pretty standard affair. Ancient's Pledge for those 47 all resistances. If I would have found a Mal rune, I would have built a sanctuary for even more resistances, but that didn't happen and I stuck with this. These boots, which are kinda like the bigger brother of Saru's with 30 faster run walk and 32 fire resistance. This 10 FCR dual res with 28 light and 28 cold res ring, which I think is pretty nice. My Demon Knight sash is kind of a placeholder for something better, but I'm using it since it allows me to have 4 rows to help me carry more mana. This ring is just for the 20/20 fire and cold resistances, and the gloves are a similar story. Very basic stuff that I bought from Nightmare Charcy with some light resistances which help me in the grand scheme of things. My armor is the reason why my Sorceress is looking like a princess. I love it, and I guess the +1 to skills and 20 FCR and 20 FHR doesn't hurt either, but what hurts so good is this thing. Look at it. The best thing I have ever wielded in a game of Diablo 2. It is finally alive, ladies and gentlemen. I give you Heart of the Oak. That pull rune took forever to find, but the +3 to skills, 40 FCR, and 33 all resistances more than make up for it. Super sick, super sweet. In the skills department, I have none in the fire tree, as one may expect. People like to put 1 point into warmth. I don't think it is worth it. In the lightning tree, I have 1 in the 3 basics, static, telekinesis, and teleport, and then is my main lightning damaging skill, Noah. I have maxed this and lightning mastery. I know the damage does not look great, but I have played around with lightning and chain lightning, and the fact that they cast slower and have ridiculous min-maxes, that is, their damage can go from 1 to 2k, that I don't that does not make them worth it for me, at least. You probably can make an argument, although, about Charged Bolt being viable, but Nova has no synergies, which is an important fact to keep in mind, especially while going hybrid, since I was going to be putting skills not only into the lightning tree, but also the cold tree, where my weapon of choice was Frozen Orb. Similar story to Nova, no synergies required, just pure damage from the skill and cold mastery. This I made an error with, since you only want to level up cold mastery till it reduces the enemy's cold resistance to -100. Past that it is useless, so I have a couple points too many in there. But anyways, Frozen Orb is a very powerful skill. Don't let the theoretical damage deceive you. It can do around 12 times more than this while actually playing. You'll see. My resistances are practically maxed out, which is a very pleasant sight for me, since the life pool is sitting only at around 901, and it won't take much to empty it out. Generally, while starting Hell, I am level 71ish, but since that pull rune took so long to find, I am level 75 at the moment. In fact, that pull rune took so long to find that I found 2 ist runes before I found 1 pull. Yeah, what can I say? RNG is a beach, but I guess everything worked out for the best in the end.
My magic will break the siege.
But everything isn't entirely sunshine and maple syrup just yet. The entire Hell mode awaits, and the first stop is Hell Andy. While killing her, you may notice that static field's cap is now at 50% of the monster's total health. After that, all my damage comes from Frozen Orb, which is a lot, and although it is not able to freeze Andariel in Hell, it gets the job done as she does go down pretty quickly. Act 2 mostly has very few cold immunes and therefore was very uneventful till Duriel. In this fight right here is where you get to appreciate the true power of Frozen Orb. You see, what I am doing is I am casting Orb towards Duriel and then teleporting in that same direction to ensure that the Orb explodes right inside Duriel's body, if that makes sense. This ensures maximum damage from the orb, which is much higher than the theoretical one you saw, because I may not know anything about anything, but I can tell you that 400 damage does not take out Duriel that quickly. Unlike Act 2 though, Act 3 has a lot of cold immunes in the form of flares. The tricky part here is that they look exactly like another monster type called Soul Killers, which are immune to lightning. So one moment you may think that you are surrounded by cold immunes and start spamming Nova to deal with them, and the next you'll realize that those were Soul Killers instead, which snuck up to you and now you're suddenly dead. I had multiple such experiences in the jungle, so caution is advised. But it isn't really needed against our good friend Mephisto. Thanks to near max res, his attacks aren't nearly as devastating. That is to say, they don't one-shot me. But thanks to my lower resist wand, my damage is that devastating and does bring him down to his knees real quick. Unfortunately, nothing about Hell CS is quick for the Sorc. There are 2 guys that can wreck your stuff pretty bad here, and the first of them is Lord Decize. He is a mage and therefore he will always be cold immune, The problem arises when he is lightning enchanted as well, which will make him literally impossible to kill with your cold light sorceress. After checking on him, the next guy that can be trouble is Grand Vizier. This guy will always be lightning immune, so it is essential that he isn't cold enchanted either. If both those things check out, then killing both of them isn't so tough. Infector can never be cold and light immune, since his monster type is naturally fire immune, and so he can only be immune to one additional immunity. Therefore, I kill him last, since he is always a guaranteed kill. And then it was time to kill another guaranteed kill, Diablo. You know, I am not gonna lie, I kinda missed the Necromancer while clearing up the CS, since he is really good at taking down multiple enemies with devastating corpse explosions, but when it comes to single targets, the Sorceress wipes the floor with him. Right out of the bat, Static Field takes away 50% of the boss's HP in Hell, and after that, Frozen Orb is destructive. Given that I had max light res as well, Diablo's lightning was hitting me here and there mid-teleports, but wasn't doing a lot of damage, whereas the orb explosion was, and thus the Diablo kill was fast, easy, and mostly painless. Killing Frozentine and his minions, however, wasn't the best thing ever. Not only are their attacks really strong, but they're cold immune, which meant that I had to resort to my weaker attack of Nova, and they had mana burn, which was destructive as well. In the end, I decided to just pull them and teleport in, but even that did not go very well. Fortunately, I had made a safety TP beforehand, and I went back to save Anya. Some of the Yetis followed me in, and therefore I had to drag them out again before going back in, taking out some of the ladies with Frozen Orb till I had a clear shot with Anya, which allowed me to save her and escape to town, with the Yetis chasing me, all James Bond style. Gosh darn action sequences. And that wasn't the last of them. The Ancients fight was up next. This fight was super scary. My main fear in this fight was Madoc, who is lightning immune, and he hits like a truck. I started off with casting lower resist curse on them, and then started moving around, casting Frozen Orb behind me. This was where the risk lay. Unlike Talik or Korlik, Madoc could snipe me easily during these 2-second intervals where I stopped moving, turned back, and cast Frozen Orb. And when he did hit me, the results were not pretty. This is why I continued to be on the move while casting Frozen Orb behind me, making sure that it hit Madoc at least once since he was the scariest one. I guess I should mention that in the Ancients fight with the Sorceress, it is always nice to make sure that neither of the Ancients are cursed or have fanaticism or Might Aura. Additionally, you don't want Madoc or Talik to be cold immune, since that is your main source of damage, and you don't want Korlik to be lightning immune, since then you won't have any source of damage against him. Since I had persisted to damage him first, Madoc was the first one who went down. Next up, I focused on Talik. He can be super annoying as well if he rolls extra fast, so I would always recommend to be aware of that. By now, Talik, although had already been damaged a lot from the Frozen Orbs that I had cast, and therefore finishing him was super easy. Korlik, on the other hand, being cold immune, still had full HP, and for him I had to use special treatments. I started off with Static to get his HP down to 50% really quick, and then I moved around and cast Nova. Corlic too does immense amounts of damage when he hits me, so I had to make sure to catch him on his feet to let Nova damage him, but move away just in time before he took a swing at me. Walking behind pillars is a great way of ensuring that, and it helps to take down Corlic with pretty little effort. Another group of monsters that you can take apart with pretty little effort actually is the Lister pack. I started off by casting lower resist on them and then cast Frozen Orb to freeze them all. After that, when they had all slowed down, I unleashed the power of static to gain some leverage on the battle. After I had gotten their HP down to half, it was simply a matter of roaming around the throne room, casting Frozen Orb behind me, and watch the dragons become statues waiting to fall down. It should be noted, obviously, that if this group had rolled with an extra fast or cold immune mod, this fight obviously wouldn't have been so chill, so to speak, but fortunately none of that happened. The minions of destruction went down, and then it was time to speak to their daddy for the final time. Like always, the final Hellbale concludes this mini playthrough of the Cold Light Hybrid Sorceress. I am very happy that I was able to finish this playthrough, as I was in doubt multiple times, especially while starting Hell, if I was going to survive the monsters, if Nova was gonna do enough damage against Corlic and Decise, and if the Countess was ever gonna drop a pole rune, but finally everything did fall into place, and I am really grateful and happy for it. Other than that, this was a lot of fun, especially once you get teleport. Playing the Sorceress is a blast. You are really weak though, and I did die a whole lot in this journey, especially in Hell, but the massive amounts of damage that you do, and the Vex rune drop, I guess, more than made up for it. So that's it for this mini playthrough. For the next one, actually I will be moving away from Diablo 2 for a while and try out some new things, but there are still 3 classes left which I would love to complete in this fashion, and I hope you enjoy watching this. If you have any complaints or requests, you may leave a comment, as I will be more than willing to listen, and I hope you found this content riveting. Yours truly, with love and whispering, because do I need a reason?